Good morning. I call to order the Lake Havasu City Council Budget Work Session on Thursday, May 9th, 2024 at 9 a.m. If you'd please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item 3, which is the roll call. Ms. Williams, if you please call the roll.
Council members Nancy Campbell. Here. Michelle Lynn. Here. Jenny Koch. Here. Jim Dolan.
Let's talk about money.
David Lane. Vice Mayor Cameron Moses.
Here.
Mayor Kal Sheehy.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4 is our public hearing. It's a presentation, discussion, and potential direction to staff on the budget for fiscal year 23-24 year-end estimates and the fiscal year 24-25 annual budget and the 5-year capital improvement plan. Mr. Knudsen, I'll turn it over to you to introduce this item.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This is our second work session to discuss the upcoming fiscal year and our budget. This is our second and last planned work session. So really want to jump in and we're here to engage council and to inform and to get to know the numbers a little bit better that we can. And we'll be listening in terms of what that means. Of course, the budget will be coming back for final adoption to the council in June timeframe. So that'll be coming. You'll see some key themes. I'll try to keep it broad here as an introduction, so I don't step on toes like I always do. But you'll see some key themes that continue into this budget, like we have in the last several budgets. It's investments into our employees, investments into our equipment, our tools, our facilities, and all the things it takes for us to operate and provide services to Lake Havasu City. So whether that's going to be water mains, sewer mains, police vehicles, fire engines, the software technology and other resources it takes to accomplish these tasks, the tools and resources to maintain our existing amenities throughout the community, including our park maintenance. I talk a lot about kind of setting the tone with the budget team and with staff. Now is the time for us to make decisions that 10 years from now we can reflect back upon and ensure that we've made some good decisions moving forward and set our future selves up for success. So that's always the key when we look at these things. So are we looking towards the future? You'll see a few things in the budget that we're moving towards, some big picture projects. Chief Palafis and his team are working very hard. We're on the final phase of receiving the city's CON, or Certificate of Necessity, which would allow us to provide transportation or ambulance services in Lake Havasu City. So the budget will reflect that moving forward. We have our Judge Kalali will be looking at some different concepts and ideas that he's been sharing for quite some time with council on additional specialty courts. So that there's plans and some flexibility within the budget to take a look at that. Not only what it looks like for courts budget, but what are the impacts on the attorney's budget as well too. So more courts, more process. That's a good thing in terms of specialty courts. But what does that impact? Does that impact victim services? Does that impact our prosecution type services that we have as well too? PD is going to be starting a very, very big process, looking at the CAD systems and working closely with Jill and Jonathan and IT. Our CAD system is old, and what that means is all things with regards to dispatch and the software and technologies that are used when somebody dials 911, that we can properly dispatch an officer to the location. Obviously, there's benefits on the fire side as well too, but that CAD system is something that the city's been talking about for several years. Chief Doyle always joked about it that he'd be happy to help out after he retires, because it's going to be a very big undertaking as we get to that. But we'll be in a really great spot once that's implemented. Development Services and Jeff Tuneman's team is in the final stages of implementing their Mainstar software, which is fantastic, because you're going to see it not from efficiency perspective from our staff and our ability to take in building applications and review design plans and so forth. But from the public's perspective, they'll be able to make it a lot easier to submit applications, submit plans electronically or otherwise. So we're hoping that some of the efficiencies and the ease and the convenience will result in even faster timelines and responses. All the investments that we've talked about in the CIP, but also ongoing when it comes to public works. So, the tools, equipment, resources it's going to take for us to continue to do big projects within public works. So those are some of the things that are in there. Jill and her team will talk about some new positions in the slides, and maybe I'll talk about that a little bit more in detail once we get to that point. We always like to talk about that this proposed budget to the council does not include any new taxes. We're not looking at anything in terms of additional revenues coming into the city or additional avenues. It's 100% a balanced budget. Even more so than that, we are maintaining reserves to a very, not just the BSR, but reserves to a level that allows us to be in a good fiscal position as we move forward. And the timeliness of all this is we just had our bond rating improved. When analysis came in, Jill and her team provided all information. We answered all the questions and throughout all the different departments. And our bond rating went from a AA- to a AA with a good standing or a stable outlook. Thank you, which is very important. We have somebody independent coming in, looking at our financial situation and telling us that we're improving and doing a really good job. With that, Mayor, I'll turn it over to our team with special thanks to all the hard work and effort that goes into this with Jill Olson, Angie Bakken, and Ellie Blum. So with that, if it's okay with you, Mayor, we'll turn it over to the team.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. I too want to thank all of the departments, the budget team, and everyone in the departments who contributed to this budget process. We do a lot of work as the budget team, but they provide all of the data, or the majority of the data that we use to put this together. So thanks to everyone. Start off again just describing the budget process. It's nearly a year-long process that begins with the CIP planning that we start in September. After the council planning session, we work more diligently on the operating budgets to get those finalized and submitted to the budget team. The departments then meet with the city manager and the budget team to discuss all of the details of the CIP and the operating budgets. Then the documents provided at the CIP meeting and this meeting are a culmination of all of those efforts that we have gone through to get to this point. The materials that have been provided to council for this meeting include the bound copy of the operating budget, so that with your CIP plan that you were presented at the April meeting constitute the entirety of the budget. Just as a reminder, as Mr. Knudsen mentioned, the council will adopt the tentative budget on June 11th, or you're scheduled to, and scheduled to adopt the final budget on June 25th. Today, we're going to just take an overall look at the budget on the operating side. That includes any updates to the capital improvement plan. We'll take a look at the department budgets and talk about what's contained in your operating budget book. And then we'll turn it back to council for council discussion and questions at the end, or anytime during the meeting if the mayor so desires. To begin with, on the personnel side, so this includes salaries, wages, and benefits. The overall increase to the budget is about 8% over the prior year budget. This includes all of the step increases that employees are eligible for. We're assuming that they receive those step increases. The market stabilization adjustment of 3.5% is also included for all funds. We include any changes in the Arizona State Retirement System or the Public Safety Personnel Retirement System retirement rates. For ASRS, the rates decreased ever so slightly, but we'll take it from 12.29 to 12.27. PSPRS, which was very encouraging for a change, the police was held flat at their rate, and the fire actually decreased nearly 1 percentage point. So, and those rates reflect the average rates for all of the tiers within the PSPRS system. Continuing the personnel discussion, these are the additional positions that the city manager referenced. I'll just go quickly through them, and then if we want to highlight any after I've gone through them, we certainly can do that. For administrative services, this includes an additional information technology position. This will be used to enhance cybersecurity and the protection of the city's network. This is a critical role that we felt was imperative be added to our staff at this time. In the city attorney's budget, we've added an additional staff, an FTE for a victim service specialist, but we've also added potential dollars that could be available depending on the impact to the city attorney's office based upon what the court programs are. So that does have a bit of a domino effect. When the court programs increase, there is an effect on the city attorney's office. So those dollars and that hiring will occur on an as-needed basis as the city attorney assesses those impacts and determines what's best for the city. In the city manager's office, there's an additional position to enhance communication internally and externally with our community. Fire department has an additional full-time admin person, and that is replacing 2 part-time positions, so a bit of a swap there, and then 1 additional fire inspector investigator position. Human resources has the addition of an HR manager, municipal court, an additional counter clerk, parks and rec, an additional maintenance specialist, which was also swapped for an eliminated vacant position. So that vacant position had been vacant for some time, so we replaced it with an additional maintenance specialist. In the police department, additional administrative position, an additional background investigator, and 2 police officer interns. And in public works, 2 additional custodian positions. And those those full-time positions are replaced by part-time positions that are in existence. I don't know if there's any questions on any of those at this point or any that you want to hear more about.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Olson. Are there any questions from members of the council? Councilmember Lynn?
Yes, thank you, Jill. You said that a couple of these positions they're going to be full-time positions and they're taking over part-time positions. Are there any positions that are totally eliminated?
The vacant one. The only full-time position is the vacant one that was in Parks and Rec.
Okay. Anything like currently that we have for staff that any of those positions are completely being eliminated? No.
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Knudsen? Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, and then just to double down on that too. Yeah, there's no layoffs or elimination of positions that are currently occupied. I think we have 27. The last number I saw this week was 27 vacant positions within the organization. So, but a couple of things. One, Jill did a fantastic job with explaining some of these positions, but I'll touch on a couple here real quickly. The community engagement officer that's coming out of the city manager office. That's a position that would be kind of a full-time dedicated public information officer with a whole lot more responsibility and expectations coming from that position. So we need to do a better job of communicating with our residents in terms of telling the city's story. Why are we doing the things that we do, and explaining that to the best degree that we can. At the same time, collecting sentiment and feedback from our residents, just another avenue for us to make sure that we're listening to the residents through the council, through the community, and trying to do what we can to prioritize our decisions and all that moving forward. And also just a better level of communication within the organization. Again, trying to bring the departments together through collaborative process. And there's a lot of things that we can do from that perspective. So that's what we're looking at there. That's a new position. And then I want to highlight Chief Sterling. He's done a really good job of taking a look at assessing the situation and has identified 2 police officer intern positions. So we've talked about in previous budget years, even budget work sessions, about some type of maybe a parks ranger position that we could use for our parks. So we hear lots of concerns from the community when it comes to maybe the activities at the skate park or electric vehicles or bikes that take place in Rotary Park or in other areas, or just different activities that take place that we want to keep a close look at. At the same time, we have cadet program. So we're very good at grabbing kids and the high school ages that see themselves as in the law enforcement profession in future years. And then at age 18, when they graduate from high school, there's nothing there for them to continue on that career path. You have to be 21 years old to be an officer, police officer within Lake Havasu City and the state of Arizona. So police intern positions would be able to provide opportunities to those that are graduating high school in the cadet program, bring them on as police interns, utilize them in that capacity to maybe work within our parks park system or otherwise to assist the police operations. And then to give them the tools, the resources, and the know-how to kind of grow our own. And when they turn 21, be able to bring them into the department. So I'm happy to answer other questions, but I do want to highlight those two with a much more of a robust explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Knudsen. Councilmember Berlin.
Yes, I have one other question. When I'm looking through our budget book and I'm looking at the scheduled budgeted full-time positions by department, is this the time also to discuss this part?
Sure. Can you give us the page number you're on?
Page 31 for Public Works. So could you describe the position of Deputy Director of Public Works? And then we have an Assistant City Engineer, but we don't, am I understanding that we don't have an actual engineer?
Mr. Knudsen?
Mayor, Councilmember Berlin. Certainly. So we had, in the existing budget, we hired a water resource sustainability coordinator. I think I got most of those words right. It's a very long title. And then he was looking at Tim Kellett, who presented the water and sewer regulations at the previous council meeting. He has done a fantastic job with us looking at our big picture strategy when it comes to our water portfolio, water strategies, different things we can do better in terms of water efficiency and water conservation, and just really done a really great job in that aspect. He's going to continue to do all of that. And so we're going to eliminate the position that he's in. And then he's identified now he's working in the capacity of a Deputy Public Works Director in the department. So he's able to bring the leadership that's needed within that department and continue to support our team, our operations from that capacity. And again, continue on with the existing responsibilities that he has right now. So he's doing such a great job. We're going to reward him with more work. And then as far as we have positions within the organization, we have two engineers, certified engineers that work within Public Works. And they were, so we lean on them and for all of our engineering type of needs when it comes to reviews, plans, and stamps.
Councilmember Campbell?
Thank you, everybody. I had a great meeting yesterday with our county manager, Sam Elters, and we have a really strong discussion on expansions, as we talked about, and the word bypass was brought up again. And I was wondering, who do we have on staff that is an engineer or a planner to help assist us with expansions for future? I mean, we need to start looking at the long-term plans for possibly widening certain roads, extra, I know we have the Metropolitan Planning Organization. They are also on board. And the only complaint that I'm always getting is we don't have job-ready expansions. Who do we have on staff that can handle that for us?
Mr. Knudsen?
Mayor, Councilmember Campbell. Certainly, we have a team through the Development Services Department, through our Public Works Department, that if things like that need to be addressed or looked at a lot closer, we have lots of great people within the departments that are able to address those types of issues. So, we can engage Mr. Elters. He's now the ADOT board member, as you indicated, Councilmember Campbell. And if there are different ideas and things that we want to take a closer look at, we can. If the council chooses to, we could identify a transportation study to look at traffic counts, needs, expansion, growth, those types of things. But we certainly need a plan moving forward. So we want to identify expansion of roads, new roads, road maintenance, all based on data and information that we collect. So if there's a need, we want to address it. But I feel very, very confident with the the MPO that we're Havasu is lucky to have, and with the team that we have in place and our ability to address these things, we're in a very good position for that.
For many of you, this is the first time in 21 years Mojave County has somebody sitting on the ADOT board, State Transportation Board, and he is our county manager as well. So we are blessed to have him here. He only has, a 6-year term. And as we know, some of these expansions can take a lot longer than that. There is grant funding through the SMART grant funding. I just don't want to I want to make sure that our staff has plenty of time to assist us in these expansions and these discussions sooner than later. Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell, it's going to be a collaborative effort between the MPO and then, of course, ADOT as well. We only have, the one way in and one way out. It's controlled by ADOT, so we have to have those conversations with them. But collaboratively doing that, we're also getting ready to do the general plan. Actually, this budget has funding for the general plan, so those conversations can all happen during that process. That's when we really will forecast out multiple years on growth and growth strategies and how those development services connect. And get people around our community. So it's a good time to have that conversation.
And that's why I'm discussing who is the person that is going to assist us as the city to have those conversations, which include the MPO also is coming up with their 5-year plan, that a 5 or 10-year plan. And maybe most of you guys don't know, right now we don't even have an MPO director. So we are in the process of looking for an MPO director there and or a planner. So there's a lot of moving parts going on, as you know, and I want to make sure that our staff is got all the assistance they can get to assist us in, number one, the general plan. We need the best of the best to assist us with this general plan. We need the best of the best with the MPO, and so that we can give our staff moving forward positive direction over the next 10 years. So if by any chance I see that we have like another person in our city manager's office and another person over here, I'm asking the planning department, I'm asking you right now, if you think you're going to need help with this process, please come to us now. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Are there any other questions on personnel or this slide that Ms. Olson went over? Yeah, I would just like to reiterate on the police intern, Chief Sterling, thank you so much for moving this forward. It's a great succession plan. It does fill that gap where cadets or people interested in a law enforcement career don't have the opportunity because of the AZ Post standards. And 3 years is a long time, especially when you're young like that, and you can find different interests really quick. So, and it also solves some other issues that we have and challenges in our parks. Mr. Knudsen, when you described it, you forgot to mention the dogs in the park, which is one of the ones we get a lot as well at Rotary Park. So all of these types of things are important aspects to our citizens and the users of our amenities, but our sworn officers have other duties that may take more of a priority, and this will allow us to have a nice balance. So thank you for doing that. Ms. Olson, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. So the next category to go over is the area of services, capital, and other that you'll see outlined in the budget. The increases that are reflected in this budget, just a few of them to highlight. The services budget is about $3.2 million more than the FY24 budget, and that's due to primarily additional repair and maintenance programs such as door replacements, HVAC systems replacements, and repair, maintenance. Floors, we have a lot of flooring that needs to be looked at, and city parking lots and those types of items. In the area of capital outlay, it's about $5.8 million more than the FY24 budget was, primarily due to the carry forwards and the supplemental one-time items funded by additional revenues and available fund balance. Again, just a reminder, mostly if the public is not familiar, the carry forwards that we refer to are those items that we had planned to complete by June 30th, 24. We are not going to be able to complete them either due to not being, it's a service we can't complete by then, or perhaps it's equipment or supplies that we're not able to receive by June 30th. We have to carry those funds forward into the following fiscal year so that we can complete those items. The supplemental one-time items or supplemental items in general, those are items that are included now throughout these budgets for anything that was above and beyond the base year budget of any department. An additional $500,000 has been included in this fiscal year, in addition to what was included in last fiscal year for parks improvements and amenities. And again, there are supplemental items included, and those are scattered throughout the budget within the different departments. You'll see a lot of them in their capital outlay line items. It's about $9.9 million worth of supplemental items on the general fund side, and overall about 11.7 million was asked for. Those are primarily one-time expenditures, using some of that fund balance and additional revenue that we may have received throughout the year. Other revenues and expenditures. The contingency budgets for each of the funds is maintained and carried through the FY 24-25 budget. That includes $1 million for the general fund contingency line item, which is equivalent to what it has been in the past years. There is additional potential revenue and expenditures included for additional grants or donations that we might receive. We've added $6 million in case we get grants that we don't even know are on our radar yet. We have no idea of what they are. If we don't add the revenue and expenditure during the budget process, then we're not able to spend those funds because no budget allocation would be allowed according to state statute. The budget stabilization reserve, as referenced earlier, is still at the 50% level for the general fund. So that provides us about 6 months worth of operating revenue, so that should there be any change, mostly a downturn in the economy, that will allow us the ability to react to whatever that economic downturn might be in a more timely manner. We have reflected in all of these numbers any state shared income tax decreases. We looked at that in detail at the April meeting on the urban revenue sharing item. The income tax that we get distributed from the state, those changes have been reflected in this budget and in the projections. Again, as Mr. Knutson had mentioned, our property tax rate will remain at the same level. With the assessed valuation increase that we received notice of from the county, we will generate an additional $400,000 in revenue. $104,000 of that is due to new construction, and the remainder is just due to the increase in assessed valuation for any properties within our city limits. At the prior meeting in April, we presented the capital improvement plan, and we have made some adjustments to the CIP as shown on this slide. For the city core paving project item, we're actually going to reduce that item in FY25 because more of that work is going to be completed by June 30th, more than we originally had anticipated. So we don't have to carry forward as much money. So we'll carry forward only 1.7 million for FY25. For streets, additional industrial paving project on industrial, that amount is not going to be finished. That project won't be finished by June 30th. Therefore, we're carrying forward about $692,000 into FY25 in order to complete that project. In general government, the downtown Catalyst city park development, we had general fund allocation for this project, but it didn't reside in the CIP. We're now moving that general fund amount into the CIP. That total that's being moved in is kind of a placeholder. We can use up to that amount. We may not need that entire amount, but it'll depend on what decisions council makes related to what that project looks like. Again, the ABC funding dollars are intact still for that at $800,000. And then we have 2 grants that we're anticipating that total about $1.8 million that we will use up to that amount on that project for. So next we'll take a quick look, just a quick look at what the department budget totals are and talk about what's in your budget books. This is just the FY25 total. The budget book in the department budget section, we have tried to include as much information as possible so that council can see the difference between prior year's budgets and the current year proposed or the currently proposed budget for FY25. So if you just look at the first one on page 37 for admin services, we're showing actual and budget for FY23. You can compare that to the budget and estimated actual for FY24, and then compare that, both of those, to the FY25 amount. Down on the very bottom, you're going to see another table where we've tried to explain any budget variances. So if you see any big swings on different line items, you'll know what is causing that. So in case of admin services, personnel is increasing due to the additional full-time position. That's partially why it's increasing. Of course, it's increasing for the other things we talked about, step increases and stabilization, wage stabilization. In supplies, we have an actual reduction because we had a larger one-time purchase in FY24. We remove one-time purchases and they don't get carried forward into the next budget. The capital expense for the replacement of the CAD system, and then it is included in the IT budget. And then what we call the SBITA lease requirements. We're required by GASB, now the Government Accounting Standards Board, any of our subscription-based information technology agreements have to be reflected as capital. So we're doing that because we have to. It doesn't always make sense, but that's why that's changing. We do what GASB says. So we've also moved expenses from our operating budget to debt as required by another GASB requirement. So you'll see a debt line item, and that's also due to those lease agreements. That's considered debt since it's a long-term or a 3 to 5 year term lease. Typically, we lease all of our computers, and some of our maintenance agreements for our software are actually now considered subscriptions, not necessarily licenses. So that explains the format of what you'll see. And so for every department, you will see that kind of an explanation. FY25 generally does reflect any carry forwards that were required within those departments. I don't think we'll ever be able to avoid carry forwards because there's so much that we can't control. If we don't receive a service or supply by June 30th, we're not allowed under the accounting rules to actually book it as part of that fiscal year's budget. The next steps, as I mentioned earlier, on Tuesday, June 11th, we will adopt the 5-year CIP and tentative budget. And we will, for June 25th, we'll conduct the truth and taxation hearing related to the property tax increase caused by assessed valuation. The rate, again, will remain flat, and we will also have final budget adoption. Then on July 9th is when council will adopt the property tax levies that have been included throughout this entire process. And with that, I'll give it back to you, Mayor, for any discussion and questions.
Thank you, Ms. Olson. So at this point, we'll take questions or any discussion topics that we want to talk with the team about on the budget. So if any council members have any specific questions. Yeah, Councilmember Lynn?
Mr. Mayor, I just have a quick question. On the Downtown Catalyst, on those grants, is there a deadline to use those grants?
I'm sure there is. I don't know. The ABC funding there's a deadline, but I'm sure there's a deadline. I don't know if Anthony knows the answer to that, or if Vijette is here, or maybe the city manager.
Have we received both of those grants?
Mayor, Councilmember Lynn, yes, the WIFA grant has been received. The grant from State Parks has been received. We received the State Parks grant a little over a year ago, I believe now. So there's some timelines in terms of the need to spend it. More so, the timeline is we can't apply for that grant again until we spend this one. So we're losing out on opportunities for us to apply for additional grants because they want us to spend this one first. They're not going to give us more grants because the fear would be that we would sit on that one. So that's really the timeline we're up against on the State Parks grant.
And those grants are specifically for that project?
The State Parks grant is specifically for that project identified by parcel number.
Okay, yeah, if you can maybe let us know what the deadline is to use those.
I know Anthony or Vijette, do you have a date If you don't, that's fine. But I think it's so what we're up against is the more the timeline. I can share with council with that if there's a deadline that's associated with it, but more so our inability to apply for more grants. But did you have a time frame?
For the WIFA one, I do. That is December of 2026. For the Arizona State Parks, I don't, but we can get you that information.
Yeah, we'll get that.
And on this particular project, Councilmember Lynn, on our council meeting on May 14th on Tuesday, we'll have a discussion about this. So this change here in the budget gives flexibility for council to do whatever action it is that we'll have on Tuesday when we discuss that item. Did you have any additional questions, Councilmember Lynn? Councilmember Campbell?
Mayor?
Yes.
One question, if we're going to be discussing it on Tuesday, obviously we can wait, but my next question would be, is there a certain scope of work or that we have to use? Did we submit the plans? Did we submit the plans that we have right now to the grant funding, or was it just hitting certain boxes of what we can use this grant for?
Mr. Knutson?
Mayor, Councilmember Campbell, discussion today is just the dollars that we have identified and earmarked for that project, right? So we can get some more information. Certainly, the council will be taking a look at that much more closely on Tuesday at our meeting and begin to identify some of those details at that time. We just want to make sure that the council has a full understanding through the budget process of how much money has been earmarked for that project and the ABC dollars, the WIFA grant, the state parks grant, and the small and the general fund dollars that are tied to that project.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that I have that information in front of me come Tuesday then. All right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from members of the council? All right, this is a public hearing, but I would like to address the city council on this item. Yeah, James, thank you.
James Maniaci. First of all, I want to thank Jill for putting page numbers on the slide so we know where we are. In reference to page 6, on the 8% increase in employees, I'd like to know what the current numbers are for 3 situations. One is the number authorized in the budget. 2 would be how many are empty, and then 3 would be, of course, what we end up with. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So the total in this budget, if adopted by council, will be a total of 536 positions budgeted full-time and 69.6 positions part-time, again, if adopted by council. And the other question that you had, was that the total question you had? Oh, and then vacant, I believe it was 27 is what Mr. Knutson had mentioned earlier.
Hello, David Diaz. Just one quick question for Jill. The services budget, what was the increase in dollars? You had mentioned 24 versus 25. I missed that number. Thank you.
The services grand total for all funds is about 3.2 million more than in FY24.
Good morning, Joan DeZero. First, after 40 years of looking at various budgets, I think Jill's done a wonderful job with as a resident looking at this. It was very easy to understand. I just also wanted to commend you for adding the community engagement officer to your list. As I've been out campaigning, that's one of the concerns that we hear a lot of is we don't know what's going on, although I think the city does a pretty good job with the website and the Facebook, but not everybody's technical. So having somebody concentrate on that, I think, is going to be a great idea. So thank you for adding that to the list.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Bring it back to council for any additional questions or comments.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Dolan.
Well, I just want to be the first one to thank the staff since we always do that. So No, I think it's good for people to understand the process of how this works and what we as council do at this level. Like you said, our job is to kind of oversee and look for the big picture stuff and are we on the right direction? But, this is the second meeting we've done and we're probably into hour 2.5 total that we've done this, but the staff has been working on this constantly for the last 10 months. They run the city on a day-to-day, and I think they're doing a great job. I'm very proud of the work we're doing. I want to thank you guys. Like I said, the fact that we're not raising taxes, we're within budget, and we're doing a lot of great things with the community. I think that's very important. I just think you guys deserve props for that. So, like I said, it's very exciting to be a part of this. Just in the time I've been on council, the courthouse and, just the things we've been able to do. So I just want to thank you. And just like I said, let everyone realize that the process is constantly going on. They're already, what didn't get in this budget is the next budget and how we're going to make it work. And so it's just thank you to you guys, to the whole staff, all 500 some odd people out there that are doing their job. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of the council? Yeah, Councilmember Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump on that same bandwagon. We really appreciate the work that you guys are doing. There was a few comments about positions here and how we're adding a couple positions. As our city grows and people are asking for more and more from us and to provide additional services, we're having to add additional staff. And we're doing that without raising taxes or additional monies into the budget other than the revenues that we already have and the avenues that those revenues come to us. So great job by all of you by bringing those positions that the citizens need and not taxing them even higher. So it's a good job. Another balanced budget. This is my 8th budget. We have not raised taxes that entire time. And I thoroughly appreciate all the work that you guys do. As Councilmember Dolan said, we've had a couple hours of public hearings. We have a lot of hours behind the scenes speaking with the staff and Mr. Knudsen and going over the budget ourselves. But here in the public realm, it's been a few hours, and the amount of hours that you all have put into this is in the thousands. So we truly appreciate the hard work that you're all doing. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right. As far as this budget, this is something that as citizens we can be very proud of. So this is an investment that we're making into the community, listening to the needs of our community. This budget takes care of a lot of those things and plants the seeds for the future for continued investment as our community continues to grow. We have long-range plans. We'll be updating our general plan during this next cycle. There's lots of things that are very exciting that are happening. And again, without any additional revenues or tax increases or debt financing or any of those types of things, we're carefully balancing all of the elements that it takes to run the operation from a business standpoint, as well as the priorities of our community, and addressing all sectors of the work we do. So it's a budget and a spending plan that we can all be very proud of, and to our team that put it together, thank you for your investment in time and commitment to listening to the priorities of council and the citizens and delivering on those through the work that you do every day. Yeah. Councilmember Lynn?
Yes, I have one more question. We're talking about the courts and possibly doing specialty courts. Do we have enough staff to be able to handle those extra specialty courts?
Yeah, as the judge makes his way up, when it comes to specialty courts, Ms. Olson had mentioned it earlier, what the work that they do, they only get to do because one of our police officers assisted them to the court system. And then the city attorney's office has to help as well. So this spending plan collectively takes into account a holistic approach to all departments impacted. But Judge, if you could speak specifically on specialty courts.
Mayor and Councilmember Lynn, I appreciate the opportunity to address this. One of the things that will be different between the other types of courts that we do and the ones that we have now are that our Veterans Court and our Youth Court are pretty much anybody that comes into the system come into those courts because it works well that way, and that's kind of best practice. For the other types of specialty courts, we have to have some kind of an assessment tool to make sure that we're addressing the issues of those that need it the most, because we could waste time, effort, money, all of those things if we're getting people in that don't necessarily need to be in. So one of the things that we've implemented and that we are implementing is an assessment tool to help us make sure that we're really focusing on those people. So that does help us in making sure that we're addressing the right number of people. But as we expand to those other courts, obviously there will be more need for other services. One of the things that we're looking for, and one of the things that takes up a lot of our time now, is that our clerks are our case managers. And usually in many types of courts, you have either a probation officer or treatment providers that case manage. And we have made contact with some people that are doing that in the city to maybe bring them into this program to allow them to case manage in a way to kind of lower what we need to do. And so, yes, we always need more people, but we're trying to do it in a way that is most efficient. Either way, to kind of echo what's happening in the prosecutor's office, either way, it's going to be more work for the prosecutors, because if somebody comes into a treatment court, while the end result is better, it takes a little more effort up front, and including with the prosecutors. And so we appreciate the fact that you folks understand that and understand that this has a ripple effect, both and a very good ripple effect, but it does have a ripple effect on that. So long term, we would love to look at maybe a probation officer or doing something with the county to provide for that service. But as of right now, with what we have planned in this next year, I think that we're okay. And, you know, I presented a 5-year plan for the court to you folks previously. And I think in that we have the numbers of people that we feel like we need, and then having that discussion with the prosecutors and the other organizations to make sure that that support is provided to us is something that we're working on every day. So I appreciate the question. And
I was kind of going for that probation officer, because
Yes.
I know that's what the county, that's what they were using in their specialty courts. So I don't want to delay the processes of
Absolutely.
in these specialty courts just because we don't have a position.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember Blaine.
Thank you. And I just want to add into that with one of the comments that Ms. Olson made. When it comes to the specialty courts, there's a lot of grants that are out there that we apply for through the specialty courts. And as she said, there's $6 million in the budget for grants that we don't even know we have yet. So as the specialty courts expand and we apply for those grants, if we didn't have this in the budget, we would not be able to utilize those grant funds. So it's forward thinking, not only with the prosecutors and the courts, but also our admin team that's putting this kind of stuff into the budget so that we can expand these specialty courts that help the people so well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Any additional questions or comments before we adjourn? All right. Motion to adjourn. All right. We are adjourned. Thanks for being here. Be kind. We'll see you next time.